This is Steve Robbins. Welcome to the Get It Done Guys, quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. In today's world, we mostly have enough on our plates to fill every available second. But our time is our most precious, limited, non-replaceable resources. And we have a billion things to do with it, and all of them need to get done, or so we believe. We need a way to decide which things to do next, but it's not always clear how to make that choice. At work, we can at least be guided by business goals. After all, time is money. But how about our free hours? There, time may be happiness or joy or friendship. Decide the highest value use of your time by using some easy metrics. Give every option you're considering a comparable currency, because you can't compare apples to oranges. Well, I can, but that's due to a head injury I sustained as a small child. Likewise, you can't compare time that's money with time that's happiness, so put them into the same currency. Measuring professional time is easy. Put it in terms of the money that you'll make. If someone's willing to pay you, that's the rate that they're willing to pay. That's the value of your time. For example, your job. You spend 8 hours working each day, and you get paid for those hours at some hourly rate. Now, if what you do will eventually bring income, but it isn't right now, that time's value is the eventual hourly rate. Now, of course, taking into account the extra hours you needed to make that dollar is important. So let's say that you're a consultant looking for a contract. You spend time looking for that contract. If you spend 4 days to land a 6-week gig that pays $500, you're making $500 for 6 weeks and 4 days. So that's $14 a day. You need to raise your rates. But notice that you took into account the time that it took you to find that contract. Email is particularly pernicious. People say, I spend 2 hours a day doing email, but that's okay since I get business through email and I once got a $5,000 contract via email. Then they conclude that their 30 minutes of email checking brought in $5,000. Wrong. If they check email 2 hours a day, that's 25% of their work hours. If they get paid $80,000 a year, then that email time has to bring in at least 25% of that $80,000 or $20,000 in order to be paying for itself. When valuing income-producing time, divide the income by the total amount of time, billable and overhead, that's the non-billable hours, that it took to get that business. Turn your personal time into money as well. Comparing paid time and personal time requires valuing both kinds of time in dollars. Set your rate according to how you feel. What would you charge to miss something personal? That's what your time is worth. Your friends Chris and Sam are going to go see a movie and you get offered a shift at work. What do? Well, first of all, forget that it's work. Pretend you've decided to join Chris and Sam. Your evil nemesis wants you to have no social life, but also wants you to believe that they have your best interests at heart. So your nemesis offers to pay you to stay home. How much do you need to get paid in order to be willing to forego the time with Chris and Sam? $10, $50, $200? Whatever that number is, that is the value that you're placing on that particular personal time. Turn exposure into money. A major modern currency is exposure. A well-funded or profitable company decides that they want to abandon capitalism and steal your skill and labor to make money for themselves. Slavery is no longer legal, however, and they don't believe in capitalism or paying people for their work. So they need to convince you to work for free. They offer you exposure, and they think they're doing you a favor. Are they? Is it worth your time to work for exposure? I mean, people die of exposure. Convert the payoff to dollars. When you're offered access or exposure instead of money, ask how much you would be willing to pay for the equivalent access. Let's say that the People's Liberation Objectivist paper, fondly known as PLOP, offers you the chance to write an unpaid front-page article with your byline. Is that a good deal? Ask yourself, if they hadn't offered, how much would you be willing to pay to be on the front page of PLOP? Just asking that question immediately puts you in a new frame of mind. You start being picky. You ask how many people read the front page. Who are they? How long does the story stay live? How will they promote the story? How much will it raise or lower your credibility to appear there? The simple act of asking what you would pay leads you immediately to ask a bunch of questions that you might not think to ask otherwise. Your reputation is valuable. When figuring out what you would pay for exposure, make sure to consider its effect on your reputation, also known as personal brand in this modern era of internet exploitation. There's a reason Lady Gaga gets paid $100,000 to attend a party. Her reputation gives the party higher status. If you're not Lady Gaga, however, it can work the other way. Accepting free exposure can damage your brand, And if you are Lady Gaga, I love your work. Are you free next Thursday for lunch? I've always wanted to try Caravan of Dreams in the East Village. You can wear your meat dress, I'll wear my eggplant suit, and we can exchange tips on how to keep our clothing fresh in unseasonably warm weather. Accepting less than what you're worth sets a precedent, so factor the reputation effects into how you value exposure. You've converted all of your options into dollar amounts, but you're not done. Each option is not equally likely. The people at Plop say that you'll reach 100,000 people with your article. If that's true, you'd happily pay $100 to appear on the front page. With a bit of research, however, you discover that Plop doesn't even show up in search results, and the ones that it does, it gets filtered out by the adult filtering filter. So you estimate the chances of reaching 100,000 people at about 5%, which might still be high. So multiply the dollar value, $100, by the probability of 5%, which is the probability that you will actually get that much value, to get $5 as the value of the time that you would spend writing for Plop. Using probabilities this way is called expected value, and it's covered in my previous episode on expected value. There's a link in this episode's transcript. Your gut knows. When numbers fail, or even when you're done with the numbers, there's always the old standby, your gut. You've converted everything into one currency. You've calculated the expected value. That's all the rational stuff. It's the raw material for your intuition. Now, your intuition can evaluate factors, taking into account all of the unconscious factors that never see the light of day. For example, whether you'll be miserable doing the high-value thing versus happy doing the quote-unquote low-value thing. If your gut gives a different answer than your head, you've overlooked something. You gave time the wrong value, or you overlooked important pieces of currency. Go back and revalue your time, but correct your valuation based on the feedback from your gut. Valuing our time is all about making trade-offs. Turn possible uses of time into dollar amounts. For personal time, ask what you would have to be paid to give up that time. For exposure, ask what you would be willing to pay for the equivalent exposure. Then multiply by the probability that you'll really get that payoff, and you have your dollar amount. Then always double check with your gut. Time may be money, but it is up to you to decide how much. This is Steve Robbins. I run webinars and other programs to help people build extraordinary careers and extraordinary lives. If you want to know more, visit steverobbins.com. That's STEVERROBBINS.com. Work less, do more, and have a great life.